Here's a little bonus episode, Kraken fans, for those a little bit more interested in the ECHL and how our Kansas City Mavericks are doing as they take on the Tulsa Oilers.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to a bonus episode of the Locked On Kraken podcast, where we're going to focus on our ECHL team, the Kansas City Mavericks. My name is Erica L. Ayala. I'm your host of Locked On Kraken and also a contributor to CBS Sports, where I talk about the NHL and women's basketball at the college, of course, WNBA and international level. I will also be accredited to head to Milano Cortina for the 2026 Winter Olympics, where I'll be focused on the women's and men's ice hockey tournaments. All right, this is a bonus episode. I wanted to do this separate from today's episode, where I do a little bit of a deeper dive into, okay, how am I really feeling about that really weird press conference? And the Coachella Valley Firebirds had such a great first game. They also play again tonight, but I wanted to lean into the Kansas City Mavericks because they are taking on the Tulsa Oilers. And for those who don't know, my headquarters, this backdrop, when you see this backdrop, if you're watching on YouTube, I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. So it's an opportunity to catch up with your affiliates. The Kansas City Mavericks are our ECHL team, and they have a 2-1 lead over the Tulsa Drillers in the opening series of the Kelly Cup playoffs. They have scored 10 goals, allowed 7, and they really got to work in the last game, game 3 that I was at. They finally got going on the power play, although you'll hear from Tato Had, love his name. He's their head coach and general manager, and he had some interesting things to say regarding the power play. And after seeing the game, I can definitely attest to there might be more than meets the eye when it comes to the stats that pop off the page with the Kansas City Mavericks and their power play or special teams overall. It was a really good game, a physical game. And you'll hear Tad discuss that as well. He and I discussed that. But this is a Kansas City Mavericks team that's been able to make it to the Kelly Cup finals. They've made a deep run in the playoffs, both in the last 2 seasons. And so, similarly to the Coachella Valley Firebirds, they're expecting to do a lot. And this is a team that could, raise some hardware, but they've got to get through a pesky Tulsa team. I really do think these two teams are matched up pretty well in the Mountain Division. So your Kansas City Mavericks are actually they took the overall lead in their division, so they're playing a bottom seed, quote unquote, in their division. But I've talked to you before throughout the season because I've seen these two teams play live. I've seen Kansas City, only ever play Tulsa live. I haven't caught them on the road or in Kansas City. But, this is a grinded out kind of game. Things did not go, I'm sure, the way that the Tulsa Drillers would have liked. They lose game 3, 5-1. And again, as I mentioned, Kansas City takes that 2-1 series lead. Things really started opening up for the Mavericks in the second frame. Cade Brochard, we've talked about him before. He did get a goal in the first period. That was the first goal of the game. But then you had basically everything else happen in the second frame. You had Goudreau, Trott, Wright, and Cotton all score in the second frame. Jack LaFontaine so close to getting a shutout. You'll hear Tato Had talk a little bit about that. I've had Jack LaFontaine on the show before. The last time we spoke to him was at training camp in Seattle. I think he's a great mind. I really like talking to Jack LaFontaine. 23 of 24 shots pushed aside, just narrowly missed out on the shutout. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that goal officially came at the 16:01 mark, but I knew there was about 4 minutes left because I was starting to make my way down from the press seating down to the ice because I like to get the goalie celebrations. And then the way that I go to the locker room is right where the Mavericks come off of the ice. So, yeah, I was headed downstairs and then I hear the goal horn. I took the long route too, just to get my legs going. But I was bummed that I should have just stayed in my seat, right, Jack? But you'll hear Tato had talk about Jack LaFontaine and these two teams, game 4 will take place tonight at the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So make sure you are following me on social media because I will be at that game. And, this is a chance to take a 3-1 lead. This is a 7-game series, so they can't clinch, but they could clinch. Depending on how, of course, they do tonight, they could clinch here in Tulsa, which would be awesome. And we can talk more about that. But coming up on today's episode or bonus episode of Locked on Kraken, where I dive into the Kansas City Mavericks, I'm going to let you hear from head coach and general manager Tad O'Had. I will say you'll hear me ask a little bit about the transition that's happening at the Seattle Kraken level. For those who are everydayers and OGers, you know that Tad O'Had had some really strong, powerful words when it came to Dan Bilesma finally getting the job. And Tad and I had an informal conversation just before what you're about to hear. And I mean, you'll hear it from him a little bit, but I mean, needless to say, this shakeup that has happened at leadership, it kind of sets everyone on alert and on alarm. Um, just generally speaking in the hockey world, but especially within the organization. But again, you'll hear Tad say that. I'll add a little bit of color. Of course, I'm going to keep what we talked about informally just as that. But, I am eager for you to hear from Tad O'Had once again as your Kansas City Mavericks hope to take a 3-1 lead over the Tulsa Oilers tonight in the Kelly Cup playoffs. This bonus episode of the Locked on Kraken podcast brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now we know the NBA playoffs are here, the NHL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Now, there's so many great things about FanDuel, including that they continue to expand their women's sports. They've covered the WNBA. They're an official sportsbook partner of the PWHL, who's expanding to Vancouver. Check out Thursday's regular episode. We'll also have a little bit more for the women's hockey report. But I love also looking at future bets. When it comes to the Seattle Kraken, we don't always get an opportunity to place playoff bets. Okay, it was just that one time, but we do have some future bets. So don't miss out. Head to fanduel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thanks as always for making Locked on Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked on Kraken. And make sure that you are following and subscribed. We, of course, are on YouTube. You can listen to Locked on Kraken anywhere you get audio podcasts, which includes, of course, Spotify, Apple, Google. I've been listening on Sirius FM to some of the other Locked on shows because that's usually where I listen to Everett Fitzhugh on the radio. Also, Mike Benton and some of his reports I can find on Sirius XM. So make sure you are, subscribed. Make sure you rate and review the show. That's a great way for the show to continue to grow. And I would love that. But for today, and for the rest of today's episode, I want you to hear from Tad O'Had. He is the general manager and the head coach of the Coachella Valley Firebirds. So in just a moment, we will hear from Tad O'Had. I also just want to give us some stick taps to Nick Potter. Nick Potter is the athletic trainer for your Kansas City Mavericks, and he was named the Warrior Hockey ECHL Athletic Trainer of the Year, as voted on by athletic trainers across the league. So voted on by his peers. And Potter celebrated 650 career professional hockey games on February 16th. So we're definitely beyond that. Here's what Tad O'Had, who you'll hear from shortly, had to say. Nick is incredibly deserving of this accolade. He's been with our organization for nearly a decade and is truly one of the unsung heroes behind the scenes. I love that. Nick always puts our players first, making sure they receive the best treatment possible and constantly looking for ways to help them recover and stay healthy. His tireless work ethic and commitment to the player, to his players, are unmatched. A lot of what he does goes unnoticed, but his impact on our team is enormous. He's got an incredible personality that gels seamlessly with both the players and our staff. We couldn't be prouder. It's an honor to have someone like Nick as a part of our organization. 9 seasons with the Mavericks, 8 seasons as an assistant with the Kansas City Chiefs. He came from Western Michigan University. He did an internship with the Detroit Lions. He's also got a master's degree from Texas Tech. So he's definitely got a pretty strong resume. And so congratulations to Nick Potter. But as promised, here is my interview with Tad O'Had from Tuesday's win after Tuesday's win, I should say, over the Tulsa Oilers to put the Kansas City Mavericks up 2-1.
It's been a tight mid-series, Tulsa was a team that, was really difficult throughout the regular season. They're a fast-paced team, well-coached team. We were pleased with this evening. It was a convincing win. I felt like we executed our game plan, and really this was probably our best team, game of the series so far.
I mean, that second period really just opened up for you. I think on the score sheet, you officially got 1 power play goal, but you easily could have had a few more just with how you were playing. But it also seemed like the goals were coming in tight spaces. Is that something that you talked about, wanting the guys just to get in front of the net?
Yeah, you know what, I feel like we've talked about that this entire series, is making sure that we need to get Ned front, take away his eyes, just be difficult, arriving on time. And necessarily some of those goals haven't been falling for us in the first game or the second game. And I felt like they came in bunches tonight. And that's just sometimes the way how it works out. But we continued to do the right things and we got rewarded for it.
And, I do want to talk to you about the power play a little bit. The numbers were looking the best coming into this game and even against this opponent. I mean, it's been difficult. When you know that statistically, is that something that you focus on, that you want the team to do, or do you want them just to kind of play their game and you take what comes?
Yeah, so you can't get too enamored by numbers. Like, for example, we got a goal tonight that was after the power play had expired, but really the remnants of that, were from the power play. They're doing the right thing. The one thing with power play and special teams penalty kill is you want to create momentum from it. And although maybe it hasn't necessarily been going our way, we like some of the looks, we like what we're creating, and we don't want to lose momentum or get too fixated and frustrated because things aren't going our way. Because ultimately, it's just one component of the game. But yeah, I do like what they're doing, and I think we can build on it.
We know this was going to be a physical series. That's how it was in the regular season, when these two teams go head-to-head. And, how do you like how your team was able to respond to how the game was being called, and then also to respond knowing that this is a series and, you got to set things straight?
I like the fact that our team stood up for one another. There was a battle there, and I thought our guys stood up for one another, and that was nice to see. This is playoff hockey, so you have to expect physicality. But there's a difference between physicality and being reckless. And we want to be physical, whistle to whistle. We want to be playoff tough. And part of that is just being willing to pay the price and stand up for one another. So I liked what we did tonight.
And, Jack won't get the shutout here, but it seemed like there was a lot of comfort there. The guys definitely keeping the puck north. When you get that kind of a game from the team overall, what do you think that means for the goaltenders who know, again, this is a series, this is the playoffs, and they're going to have to stand tall?
Jack's been phenomenal, and he played an excellent game, and I wish we could have, got him that. But at the end of the day, we got the most important thing, which is the win. Jack's been solid. He's kept us in games. Game one, that first 2.5 minutes, we hung him out to dry, and he stood in there and played great. Jack's a gamer. Really like what he brings to the table, and I just want to make sure that we support him.
And then finally, I mean, I know you're in the middle of a series. I do just want to ask, when you have something that happens throughout the organization, how has that been communicated to you? Is there anything that the Mavericks are, that from a front office perspective, are having conversations when it comes to, some of the decision making and leadership changes that are happening in Seattle?
Yeah, you know what? We have a really good level of communication from Seattle and Coachella Valley, in conversation with them daily. I kind of stay in my lane, and to be honest with you, whatever we can do to be supportive of Seattle and Coachella Valley, we do that. I did have conversations, today, and just them, telling us good luck tonight with the playoffs, and also Coachella with the playoffs. And, this ultimately is a wild game. And, we're fortunate, we got a good level of communication and good leaders above, so we're looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I'll see you on Thursday, Bruce. Thanks for your time. Today's episode, a bonus episode of Locked on Kraken, also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, I don't, at least not anymore, because I use Monarch Money. And between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, we know it's easy to lose track. Add on top of that, managing your personal finances and also your business finances, like me. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's my personal CFO giving full visibility and control over my finances. It's not just a budgeting app. Monarch Money is a complete financial command center. I can track all of my accounts, my investments, and my spending in one place. So I stop just managing money and start building wealth. I really love the dashboard. It's super intuitive, easy to use. I upload all of the accounts that I want to see on the Monarch Money app, which for me are my business accounts. I have other things that I use for my personal accounts, although I'm going to switch those over to Monarch Money as well. And it's super simple to keep track. I can even set goals, I can set budgets, I can set spending or savings goals. And actually, I use a savings goal tracker in my business account, and I can use that seamlessly with the Monarch Money dashboard. So take control of your finances like I am by using Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Tato had a true mensch of a guy. I'm pretty sure that's how you say that. It's a Yiddish term. I'm from New York. You pick up some Yiddish. Anyway, Tad, I loved speaking to Tad. Like I said, we must have talked before that recording for at least a good 5 minutes. He is so welcoming. He's so supportive of my coverage, which I see as an extension of our Seattle Kraken coverage. And so I'm really grateful for him. The organization doesn't always have someone that travels with the team as far as PR. So I'm often dealing with Tad one-on-one. Also have to give stick taps to Zach Reynolds. He is actually the play-by-play and PR person for the Tulsa Oilers, and he has been fantastic, always helping me out. The Tulsa team knows that I'm coming to games when the Kansas City Mavericks are in town, and they're totally fine with it. Give me all access, literally all access. And it's been great. So stick taps to Zach and of course to Tad. Your Kansas City Mavericks. I think this is a team that they have all of the bones. I've been saying that for a while since I really started leaning into the coverage of our ECHL team. There are some discipline issues. I think that they get a little stagnant or complacent. And again, they were up 5-0. So while it's understandable, this is the playoffs still. And so you want to see the guys push. You heard Tato had talk about he's proud of his guys standing up for each other. It did get very chippy. Some of the chippiness, you know how I feel about fighting in hockey if you're an everyday listener. But for me, I think it was warranted. This was definitely a Tulsa team trying to get under the skin of Kansas City. That's what you're going to do when you're losing 5-0, right? And I do think that the Kansas City Mavericks, they held their own. I loved what Tad said about momentum. Special teams can also breed momentum in game. And he's absolutely right. You probably even heard in one of my questions, I alluded to the fact that they almost got a power play goal. Because if you listen to this is a bonus episode. So the show from either Monday or Tuesday, I was talking about how, the power play is a little bit of a problem. And I loved that he, was willing to stick up for his guys. And again, I saw it on full display. This is a team that, I always want to see guys, getting after it on the power play. Maybe I have a little PTSD because of the Kraken seasons. Let's be honest, it wasn't just this year. But yeah, I like where this Kansas City team is going. So they take on the Tulsa Oilers once again, and they can't win the series outright tonight, but they can take a lead. And I think that's huge. So um the Kansas City Mavericks will be in Tulsa at least through Friday. So uh game game 4 is tonight. Game 5 is set for Friday. And so we know we're getting at least 5 games cuz it's best of 7. So I think the Tulsa team is going to be scrappy. They don't want to get swept at home, which is what we're looking at here. And if you listen to the show as an everydayer or an OGer, you know that the schedule for the ECHL is very much dependent on the arenas and what's available. It's not like the arenas set these and then they they set the playoffs. It kind of works the other way. That's what happened to Kansas City last year, and they didn't get home ice advantage in, I think it was at least 2 series, which was a little wild. But Kansas City, if they somehow do drop a game tonight or on Friday, tomorrow, they still have 2 more bites at the apple, so to speak, and will be at home in Independence, Missouri at the Cable Dahmer Arena. So, I think they like their chances. But again, this is an Oilers team. They're going to be scrappy. They've been much better this season at being able to get to the net. And we saw that play out in this series. Tulsa came out to a 4-2 victory in game 1 on last week, Friday, on April 18th. And then the two teams went to overtime in game 2. Now Kansas City got that win, but they had to play from the back foot, so to speak. So anyway, that's a quick episode. I wanted to do something specific to the Kansas City Mavericks. And let me know in the comments, do you like this? Do you want to know more about your Mavericks? It's just easy content for me because I'm here, but we definitely are going to lean into, even on our main show, more of the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Now that's going to be a little bit interesting because we're also now in a position I never thought we would be in, which is yet again looking for a head coach. So we will spend a lot of time on our quote unquote main or regular episodes talking about that. But I want to give space to the fact that there are some of us that really do want to keep up with our affiliates, keep up with some of our prospects. So we'll have these bonus episodes until hopefully either Kansas City or maybe also the Firebirds hoist some hardware in the last game of their season. All right, you know what I say, you know how we do. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. I say this as a reminder for myself and hopefully as a opportunity for reflection for my listeners. And as always, we hold fast, we stay true, and we say, let's go Kraken, let's go Firebirds, and let's go Mavericks. I'll catch you on the next episode, bonus or otherwise. Peace out, everybody.